We could also get a decision at any moment from the judge who was overseeing Fani Willis's misconduct case. He will decide whether the Fulton County District Attorney prosecuting former President Trump in the state's election interference case can stay on the case or get kicked off. The pivotal issue, a romantic relationship she was having with married special prosecutor Nathan Wade, whom she hired for the case. A lot of conflicting testimony. Yeah, they both took the stand. Remember, we covered that live. And all the conflicts in their testimony about their relationship, the timeline, all the cash involved. Democratic Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock dodged on whether Fani Willis will be disqualified.
I know that there are folks on the other side of the aisle, unfortunately, who are trying to lean in here and put their finger on the scale. I'm not going to pile on. I think this case is being played out before a judge, and that judge will have to make a decision not based on optics, but based on the law. And that's the wonderful thing about America. We believe that no one is above the law, including Donald Trump.
Trey Gowdy says the issue actually is bigger than Fani Willis.
The question for President Trump and other co-defendants is whether or not the indictment is legally sufficient. And even if it is not, they're just going to go get another grand jury to indict him again. We got to fix the underlying pathology, which is a politicization of our justice system.
Jonathan Turley, constitutional law attorney and Fox News contributor. Great to have you today. Thank you for joining us. So the big question now is which way this judge will go. And are there any telltale signs maybe in court from what we saw?
No, this judge has not given any indication. This is a difficult question because in Georgia, there is remarkable ambiguity as to what standard he's supposed to apply. Both sides admitted that it wasn't clear whether you have to establish an actual conflict of interest or whether an appearance would suffice. And there are cases supporting both arguments. The problem is I think that the court is going to have to recognize that the testimony of these two prosecutors was really left in tatters. It seems clear to many of us that Nathan Wade did not answer truthfully in his divorce proceedings when asked if he had a sexual relationship during the course of his marriage up to the point in which he filed his answer. He insists that he simply read that in a rather strange and narrow way. Willis is also standing contradicted. You know, the new evidence involving cell phones show in one case these pings, these locational data points showing Wade going to the area of Willis's home, being there for hours, and then returning along the same path in the early morning. And on either end of that are calls or texts to Willis. That seems to shatter her denial that they had this pre-existing relationship and also that he never stayed at her home. So the question for the judge is going to be, well, if you believe that they in fact lied on the stand, how can you believe the other answers?
Oh, it's a great question. And, you know, so many people were brought into this, people from their lives. I'm thinking of that day that her father took the stand. He loved her so much, you could tell that. He said that he had never seen Nathan Wade at her place of residence, but then admittedly he wasn't there all the time and had moved to a different location during some of that time. So she didn't really get that much help from Dad. And from what you're saying, that conflict about whether Wade was at her place when she says he was not, over and over and over prior to the case starting, is critical.
It is, but also you do have the testimony of other witnesses. Mr. Bradley, who desperately tried to reverse previous statements, was very clear in speaking with other witnesses before these proceedings began that he had an absolute knowledge of a relationship starting before Mr. Wade was hired. Now, despite his testimony on the stand, the court has to consider the fact that there are other credible witnesses, and in fact, Bradley's own statements to opposing counsel that contradict his testimony.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And you said an absolute knowledge of that relationship because he used the words absolutely about that relationship in a text message. Okay, let's move to this. The New York City Fire Department is investigating the reception that New York Attorney General Leticia James received at a promotional ceremony last week. She was met with boos and chants, and the chanting said, "Trump, Trump, Trump." Watch.
Oh, come on, we're in a house of God. First, simmer down. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for getting it out of your system. I want to thank Commissioner Kavanaugh and Chief Hodgins for...
Here's a quote from the fire department leadership. "We are looking into those who clearly broke department regulations. It has nothing to do with politics. It's about professionalism at an official event held in a house of worship." End of that quote. The Attorney General says she is ready to seize some of Trump's properties if he doesn't pay the more than $359 million in damages his New York civil fraud case has ended in. So those are two separate issues, but they all circle around Leticia James. Another left-leaning DA that wanted to go after Trump now is up against, I don't know, is it free speech? What is she up against with this fire department that she'd rather have be quiet while she talks?
Well, this may surprise you because I've been one of the most vocal critics against James since she ran for the New York Attorney General's position. I felt her campaign was unethical. I think the case that she brought against Trump was excessive and abusive and politically motivated. But I also don't agree with shouting down speakers. We see this happen on campuses all the time. It's called deplatforming. And it is not an exercise of free speech to keep others from speaking or others from listening. So I think that there is a basis to say, look, you've got to follow the rules here. You can protest, but you can't stop others from speaking. I think that if she was wise, she would tell the fire department, just let this one go. I mean, the emotions are running very, very high. And in this case, maybe some restraint would be advised.
And I caught what you said there. This is about everybody else in the room who might have been trying to hear or listen. And if you talk over that, that is colliding with what we might think traditionally of free speech. That's what I heard you say.
That's right.
And I didn't even, that's brilliant. That's why you're here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.